Hi everyone, Heidi Smith here, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in the United Kingdom, and today we're talking about butterfly wishes. This is a beautiful stamp set that you may not have spotted in the catalogue, but it's one of the early ones with the distinctive effect, and today I'm combining it with the fabulous Butterfly Beauty dies. Now these are enormous all cut front dies, and I'm using it to create this trifold card here. So that's what we're going to be making. As you can see, I store my dies in here. So as well as the two big layering dies, you've actually got lots of accent ones as well, which I haven't used on this occasion, but you know, you could do almost like confetti butterflies with these little tiny dinky ones. So that's what we're going to make, and I've actually used on this some of the paper from the Dressed Up, Best Dressed paper stack, and you can see there's some lovely background sort of subtle patterns here, and the one I decided I wanted to use actually was this lovely floral one here, which I thought was really pretty. I was going to use one of the stronger flower ones, and perhaps I might have it might have worked a little better than the dots, but I just found it was kind of a little bit too busy with those flowers and the butterflies on top. So I went for the dots, and then I went for my original one, which is the lovely Highland Heather and Purple Posy. So let's get started on the project. So I've made my card base out of thick Whisper White, or I'm going to make it out of thick Whisper White, just to give it a bit more substance. It would probably fold a little bit more easily with thin, but I just felt that it kind of needed a bit of substance to it really. So I'm cutting my card at 14.5 centimetres, and then I'm going to trim the length to 22.5 centimetres. I haven't done the measurements actually in inches on this one because I was literally just working on it now, but I will do my best to convert those for you. It shouldn't be too difficult. I just probably need to tweak them slightly. So you're going to score on this long edge at 10 centimetres and at 20.5. So the scoring isn't difficult at all. You're going to want a piece of Purple Posy, and again we're just going to cut that at 14.3, so just a very narrow border, 14.3, and then I'm going to trim that to fit this panel here, which is just on the side here. So this is our 2 centimetres, so I'm actually going to cut it at 1.8. And it's always easier to cut from a larger piece, so if you've got that option, that's well worth. So there's our small panel. I'm then going to use some of my Highland Heather for that front panel as well. There we go. So it's a quarter sheet. So I've got one here that I'm going to just trim to 14.3. This is to create that narrow border, by 9.8, and what I'm going to do here is actually gut it. So for those who don't know what gutting is, this is what I say to my ladies in class. This is how you get your extra bits for punching or stamping. All I do is I line them at about 2 centimetres, sometimes slightly less, 1.5, but certainly nothing less than that. So around about, I find this a 3/4 of an inch mark, and then I just go around and cut from 2 centimetres from the top, so about an inch, to 2 centimetres from the bottom. And if they're not precise, it doesn't matter because it's still going to be covered up. But that then gives us a little panel that we can pop out and keep for other projects when we need them. So that's our layer, and then all we need now is our paper. So you could either go for the very pale one or for the slightly darker shade, up to you entirely. I'm probably going to go for this bit here, and you're going to cut it at 9.5 centimetres and then trim it to 14 centimetres. So this is the equivalent of about 1/8 of an inch in Imperial. So that just creates a nice little border around there. So I think that's all my cutting done. What I am going to do is grab my Tombow today and just put a layer around the edge of the DSP and pop that onto our frame. And because it's a narrow one, I just like to have a little bit of wiggly room. Okay, so that can go to one side. Then if you take your card base, you really need to reinforce these creases well. So actually on this one, I'm actually going to fold it back on itself and then fold it in again. And then this front piece, and you'll see it's deliberately that little bit shorter, that narrow piece will wrap around. So we can pop our piece of card on, a little bit of contrast. And then before we add anything in the way of die cuts, I'm going to stamp on the inside. So the card opens out this way, and I'm using the lovely stamps that come with this stamp set. So we're going to use some Highland Heather, and I'm actually going to stamp off. So this is where we stamp it once before we stamp our card, and this just gives us a lighter effect, and in effect gives us our bit of purple posy ink that we haven't got at the moment. Okay, just go a subtle going to use that full strength in the corner there, otherwise I think we'll miss the detail. And likewise with the birthday wishes, I'm going to pop that in the centre as well. Just straighten that up. Hopefully I'll... Okay. So that's our basic card. Pop our stamps to the side. And now what I'm going to do is talk die cutting. So you are going to cut using your dies, one in Purple Posy and one in Highland Heather. And a couple of things to tell you about here. If you are struggling to get the die cuts to cut through, so on the back here, when you put it through, you're probably putting it through that way on your big shot. What I would say is put it through a second time and angle it slightly, because it will just change the pressure, or put it slightly to one side. So that's my first tip. If you are still struggling, then what I do, you can literally cut apart a tin can and cut it into some pieces and put it over where you're struggling to die cut. So if it's that middle bit, you would put it over that middle bit or over this one here. The final tip is a die brush. I haven't yet, there is an attachment for the Take Your Pick tool, which I haven't got yet, because I've already got this die brush from when we did them before. But it's exactly the same idea, that you've got a little brush that you can just roll over the dies, and then when you pick it up, you should see that most of your pieces have come out. If you get any that are sticking in, bit of a pokey tool on those, or it might be they haven't quite cut through properly. Okay, but there we go. So that's, you know, that's not bad at all. You see most of those have just popped straight out. Okay, there we go. So now when I take that out, apart from those pesky ones up there, which I would probably normally put those through again, then you've got your lovely detailed die cut. Just double check they've all popped out. As I say, you can always take your snips and just ease those out afterwards if necessary. There we go. Right, so there's my one die cut. And then here comes my second one. So that's my background. And I've got my detail with this one. Again, as you can see, you can usually tell whether it's ready to pop out, because you'll find that these pieces will just pop. And sometimes if they're a little bit more detailed, they might need a bit of easing. but don't be tempted to yank it too much, especially around our little delicate antennae on those. Again, once you've popped it out, I then just roll over. And another thing to do with this is to keep your piece of foam in a wide Stampin' Up case, because then you just tip it off, close it up, and you'll find that all those pieces just stay inside your little your box, which just makes it really easy to just empty that into the bin. Either that, or you just need a very tolerant family who don't mind little bits of die cut everywhere. Mine are tolerant. So there's our lovely die cut. Now, gluing die cuts. I have used die sheets, but I tend not to use them on these big ones because I find I struggle to get them through. But also, most importantly, I think it's really wasteful because you get an awful lot of waste on it. So what I do is use some Tombow to deal with those. Now I probably should have put this one back through as well a little bit more, because I've got a few little pesky pieces there which I haven't actually cut through very well. Yes, it probably could have done with an extra run through. So a couple of run throughs and a couple of twists, and those would have popped out no problem. I've obviously got a couple of flat spots on my big shot. Right. Okay, but it's near enough. So there's our detailed one. Now trying to put glue on the back of that is an absolute pain. I know, I've done it. So what you want is a silicone mat. You want a piece of sponge, and you want your Tombow. Pop a little squidge of it in the corner there, and basically make sure you don't move it, but just go over and dab. You might need a bit more. Because in effect you're making a gluey sponge that will go all the way over. It means you get glue on kind of pretty much every little bit, but you've got to be really careful just not to move it. Put that to one side. That's silicone mat. That will then wash all of that glue away, and then very carefully, as you start in one corner, add your top layer die cut. And if you get any bits which are slightly offset, really don't worry, because it just adds to the effect. So you will end up with a piece like this. Pop that to one side to dry, because you don't want to be handling it while it's still slightly tacky. But that really is the easiest way to actually, I've found, to add glue to them. So you will end up with something that looks like this. And the next bit is probably the trickiest bit of this card. So what you're going to be doing is adding some glue just to these sections here. So it's this half of the butterfly, this top corner, and this bottom wing. So this is where I will come in with, I've actually got a detailed glue here. So this is a quick grab glue. I'm putting plenty on that wing and plenty on this wing here, but I'm not coming onto this big butterfly down here. So now what we do is open our card up, and you're just going to have to eyeball up there, just to make sure that our wing is okay. Fold it over and just double check and look at that. Perfect. Let that dry nice and firm. But there you have a pretty die cut dry fold card, and all we need to do now is add our panel to it. Da-da-da. Okay. Whoop. So I'm going to pop my panel on here just with that real narrow border. And there we go. And that's the effect I wanted. So there you have a pair of pretty die-cut butterflies on a trifold card, which hopefully you get a lovely floating butterfly effect when you look at it. So someone can have that gorgeous floating butterflies on their mantelpiece or on their windowsill. I'm really pleased with that. I hope you have enjoyed making this as well, and you've crafted along with me. If you haven't been able to craft along because you haven't got the products, then pop along to my shop at Flutter by Heidi. You'll find the links there, or you can go along to my Stampin' Up shop direct, heidismith.stampinup.net, and you'll follow the links to a shop there. I'd be really delighted if you chose to use a demonstrator. It helps to fund these free videos, so it's all good fun. Thanks for watching, and come back again soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye now.